Many people that are trying to build a brand show up as a small business.
Does someone need to have a certain amount of money behind them?
You can get pretty far just by brand. I have clients that will come to me with 100,000 followers that are struggling to make more than $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And then I have clients that have 2,500 followers that are making $10,000 to $15,000 a month because they have a community. People constantly just want to go viral. Community is what builds retention. It's what builds referrals. It's what builds, word of mouth. It's what builds engagement. How many people are buying a second time?
Have you ever thought about creating a product-based business? Or maybe you'd be curious about what is different about a product-based business versus a service-based business? Well, today we are diving into all things product. And today we're joined by the incredible dear friend of mine, Madi, who is an absolute expert within this industry. She has helped brands to go to a few $1,000s a month for selling out their products on things like Etsy, all the way up to supporting brands that are now in major retailers like Anthropologie. Madi also is the host and the incredible founder of her podcast, the Small Business Growth Podcast, that has over 400 episodes around building a small business. So today we talked about really the behind the curtain, if you will, of what it actually looks like to have a product-based business and what are some of the misconceptions about building a product company. When is the right time to build a product company? And also, what are questions that you should be able to answer or things that you need to consider before you ever think about launching a product? And so I wanted to share some of the key things you're going to learn by listening today. Number one, she talks about the really big distinction between having a small business and actually building a brand and what it means to have one versus the other. She also talks about the fact that having a product-based business and labeling something as quote unquote handmade is not actually as valuable of a brand proposition as you might think it is. She also breaks down her MOP method of her magnetic online presence and how to actually use that to attract a ideal customer that you want to be working with, and also to use it to understand your true differentiator within your market. She also breaks down the hero product strategy and why brands like Scrub Daddy, Liquid Death, Hero Cosmetics, and even more have been able to scale to household names with just one single product before ever expanding their product line. She talks about the real difference between building a business built on acquisition versus retention, how to actually understand the difference between community and audience, and why 85% of people experience decision fatigue when brands launch too many products at the same time. And she also will talk about a case study specifically around Coach, the luxury retailer Coach for purses and bags, and why they were able to 4x their stock price within 2 years as a result of their positioning. Ultimately, she's going to also help us to know that if you are someone who is a service-based business right now, and maybe you've thought about adding products to your existing business, things like journals or merch or any of those things, she's also going to help to break down what service-based business owners need to think about before ever adding a product to their product line. So I will tell you, even for me, I am not somebody that I would say at this time is looking to start or launch a product-based business. But I will tell you, the conversation today gave me so much insight, even around just brand, marketing, community, all of those pieces when it comes to even my service-based business. And it gave me some really good food for thought in the exploration of what would it look like to add products to my existing service business, even just to help my existing clients. So whether you're thinking, well, I'm not looking to, grow a product-based business, I will tell you there are a lot of parallels in today's episode that you can learn from. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Alrighty, you guys, and welcome back to the Ambitious Podcast. Today, I am very excited because I am joined by an incredible friend and amazing entrepreneur who not only is a complete ninja at service-based business, but she's also a ninja at product-based business. So, Madi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in because I think, obviously for me, every week we talk about service-based businesses, which is, obviously, as you know, how to set up your services, how to market your services, sell your services. But I think it's, at least in my opinion, there's not as many people that talk about the behind the scenes of what it looks like for the product side. I don't know why that
Yeah.
is. It feels like the service, there's a lot more conversations about it, but it feels like for the product side, it feels difficult to really learn what does it take to create a good product? Like, is now a good time for people to create a product-based business and like
Yeah.
everything inside of it?
Yeah, totally. It is a totally different world than service. Of course, it's still marketing, sales, branding, but it is, you flip it on its head, especially with your delivery side of things.
Yeah. So okay, let's take it from the ground up because I would
Yeah.
imagine for the person listening, they probably do not have a product. And if they do, maybe they have a product that's in the kind of early infancy stage of getting that up and running, or maybe it's an idea. And I
Hmm.
know for you, you work with people who are kind of like, I feel like in two buckets. Like you have like the kind of, I guess, startup visionary type of product
Hmm.
founder. And then you have, what I might consider to be the more like desire to stay small scale, like an Etsy type of product, etc. So like maybe to start, I think what I've learned from you, if anything, is like not all product is created equal.
No.
And product business is not just product business. There actually are tiers within creating a product business. So like if
Yeah.
someone's wanting to listen today and realize, okay, what do you mean by product-based business? What do those tiers kind of look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, there's a wide variety of product that you can have. You can start a business and have an Etsy, sell on Facebook Marketplace, and make like, 2,000 bucks here and there, or, a month, during the holidays, it really kind of explodes. You're making 3,000. You can think of it more as a side hustle. I want to make a little extra money. But then there's also the product-based world that you're like, I want to get into Anthropologie. I want to be in Target. I want to work with big influencers. I want to have Super Bowl commercials. Like, I want to play big. And there really isn't a right or wrong. It depends on what you want. But one thing that's nice about product is you can dabble in it, but you also can master it and really make it big and have a $1 billion company that actually is very, I don't want to say automated, but it's streamlined to the point of like, you have a fulfillment center, you have a production center, you have a team that's like doing a lot of these things, and you're really just the top of the funnel. Whereas if you want to keep it small, you are the producer, the shipper, and you're doing all of these things. You really can look at your business as a really large scale. And I work with $5 million companies that are like, I'm good making 5 million if I can have more profit. And so when it comes to product-based business, you have a lot of variety of how you want to run it. Some people do handmade, some people get things manufactured, some people try to market on social media, some people strictly do influencer marketing and just send people to your website. There is such a variety of sales channels, in goals, in ambition. Where like, I feel like in the service world, because I run a service-based business, we're all kind of building to have more clients. Like, you're building
Yeah.
more clients and you're just kind of gaining more, but it always comes back to you in the delivery. And that's a big piece. Whereas in the product-based world, you outsource delivery, you outsource the production and the fulfillment and all of that. And you really get to be that like top of admin, basically.
And like I'm wondering with that, because obviously even just listening to that for most people, they'd be like, I'm already overwhelmed because there's so many options of what product you create. There's so many options of, again, the vision of it. And so maybe to start off, you mentioned obviously there's kind of these like two different buckets, right? So like the
Yeah.
desire to stay small business, if you will, versus the desire to create a product that eventually becomes a bigger business.
Yeah.
If someone's thinking about looking or investigating starting a product-based business, or they're in one, does the pathway of how you grow that look different for one vision versus the other? Because as a service-based business, I feel like, at least speaking for the clients that I've helped, there's many of us, maybe even, yourself at moments, myself too, where I've been like, okay, like this works for this stage, like this works. But
Yeah.
then your strategy kind of compounds as you get to these new levels. So, right, when you get
Yeah.
to $1 million a year business, a $2 million a year service business, you're just kind of adding new bells and whistles. You're taking certain things away. It kind of evolves as you grow. So you don't have to have that clarity at the beginning. But I think about, for example, like a Bay luggage company
Yeah.
as a product, right? Like I would imagine versus like the person who's selling suitcases or luggage on Etsy, you kind of have to know, I would think, where do I see this business going? What category is it
Yeah.
going into? So like when someone wants to be small Etsy business versus big business, do they need that clarity before they press go?
You don't have to do it before you press go, but you have to align your actions with the goals that you have. So I call this the difference between being a small business or a brand. Many people that are
Mm,
trying to build a brand show up as a small business. And that is you're whipping things together. It's the week before a launch and you're like scrambling trying to take photos. You are kind of just like reactively a little bit more going through life, whereas a brand is very proactive. So if we look at like a base luggage, like they are doing right now in November, they are doing next summer of their campaign for next
mm.
summer. They are just working so far ahead, which it allows for them to be more proactive. So from the start, you don't have to do that. If you are a brand, of course, they've been around for a long time. But if you're pre-revenue, I would go into it understanding, what is my overall goal? It's the first question that I ask people. Like in 3 to 5 years, where do you want this? And there's a big difference from somebody that tells me, I want to be, in the hands of celebrities and I want to be in Anthropologie and I want to be in these stores. Or if they say, I just want to make an extra $5,000 to $10,000 and like, kind of keep it there. Like if they're holy shit, I made it number is like 5 to 10 grand versus 5 to 10 million. Very big different strategy from the start. You're just thinking bigger, a little bit larger scale. When you think of an Etsy, and it's not even Etsy, it's just people that
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
stick at a lower. And a lot of people are like, hey, I want to, make a couple $1,000s while my kids are home, feel like I still have kind of a creative outlet, have something. Fine, great. Again, there's no right or wrong. But when you're doing that, it is a lot. You're thinking smaller. You're thinking like more short term. You're just thinking, okay, how can I launch as much as possible to try to get these influxes? How can I discount? You're thinking very transactional. And
Right.
then you're thinking, okay, how can I retain a couple of these people? And basically, you're just trying to build your monthly recurring revenue of product sales, whether it's subscription or whatever, to your amount. And then you can kind of coast and you can bring a couple of new people in. It's also a lot harder in product to just coast like it is in service. Like in
Yeah.
service, you can be like, oh,
Yeah.
all right, I'm good here for like 6 months. Like I have
Yeah.
clients for 6 months. In product, it can be June and everybody's spending their money on vacations. And all of a sudden, your
Mm.
sales dip because people aren't thinking about buying whatever mittens in the middle of June. And so you do have a
Yeah.
lot more fluctuation, still a little in service. But when we're looking at the brand side, you are building for longevity. You are building brand identity, knowing that in 5 to 10 years, your product suite is probably going to look very different than it looks now. And we're going to expand that product suite. You're
Yeah.
just thinking bigger. Like a mistake people make is they're like, okay, I'm going to make this product. I'm going to make whatever dog collars, and they name their brand like, dog collars are us. And then it's like, okay, long term, you can't scale that because you've
Yeah.
pigeonholed yourself into dog collars. And
True.
so this brand people, this brand space, what they have to do is you are just thinking bigger. You're thinking longer term in the entire process of it.
Well, I think that like for most people, as entrepreneurs, I think at the beginning, you're so scrappy that you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to solve a problem and I'm going to create a product. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes people don't take enough of a step back to be like, okay, wait a second though. What do we see as the vision of where we're going? What do we see as
Yeah.
the vision of like what I would be a yes to, what I would be a no to? And I think the other piece, which I kind of note there, is like there's also what works for the market and there's what works for you. And like I
Mhm.
also want to say I know people who have been like that Etsy business and they make some good money. Like you can make some
Yeah.
serious, serious
Oh
money.
gosh, I have multi six-figure companies that are strictly on Etsy. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I don't by any means in this process want to like put down Etsy because I know some people who are making
No.
some good moolah
Some
off of Etsy.
yeah.
But I think one of the questions that instantly came up for me because you said pre-revenue. And I think that
Mhm.
when people are building a service, there's such little startup cost needed. Like truthfully, let's
Yeah.
be honest, the startup cost of a service-based business is your time. Like you're just like it's sweat equity. Many of
Yeah.
us had a 9 to 5. We would be, at work for X amount of hours. We'd come home, sit on our laptop, blitz it, trying to create something, take calls on lunch, put something up in marketing on our break at work. Like
Yeah.
there was this fluidity. And I think because of that, it allows a lot of people to transition from a 9 to 5 or a corporate job, whatever it might be, into becoming an entrepreneur pretty seamlessly, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I think about product, I think most people see if like, okay, let's just say like for me, if I feel like if I ever created a product, 100% it'd be like a candle company or something because I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with candles. But I think about the fact, okay, you need to have the manufacture of that candle. You have to either do it yourself. You need the branding for it. You need delivery. You need tracking. Like you just see all these hurdles. Whereas I feel like in service, you're like, I need me. Like I need my hours. I need my effort. I need my
Yeah.
clarity and skills. So let's talk a little bit about pre-revenue because I think
Hmm.
that in service, people are like, you can start with nothing. I feel like the same is definitely not true when it comes to product. So if someone's thinking about creating, or maybe they have the dream of starting a product-based business, realistically, what does that look like startup cost-wise to like get a business going? And does someone need to have a certain amount of money behind them, maybe, in your opinion, to make it have a fighting chance of being successful?
Yeah. There are people that start with $500 in their bank account and they're ready to like, grind it out and make sure it happens. There's plenty of stories like that. If you watch Shark Tank long enough, you'll hear them. But
Yeah.
if you want to do it right, there are going to be some costs. It helps if you can do creative yourself. Because if you are a creative individual or you have somebody that can help you with creative, the people without the creative side, the aesthetic side, it's going to really struggle. And so if you have to outsource that, it can be expensive and it can be something that really holds you back without it. So if you just can't, you don't need to have the absolute perfect everything, but branding is so much, especially in the beginning of your product based business. It's the difference between coming in contact with a brand and being like, oh, this is cool. Like someone's making this. This is awesome. And being like, holy cow, how have I never seen this brand before? Like I need to learn more. It's like the obsess factor. And so that's definitely a piece is like, you can build a business. I have plenty of clients that have come to me and said, hey, like I was a graphic designer by trade and I built this business and for like somehow it worked. Can we figure it out and like make it repeatable?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you did just kind of like you had a niche enough company that was beautiful enough that people were naturally drawn to it. But that can only get you so far. So you do need the creative and the strategy. It's something that I talk about a lot, the art versus the science of business, the creative versus strategy, the like structure versus the aesthetics. You need a little bit of both. When it comes from a cost, it's very different than service. Like I was sitting down a couple weeks ago with one of my friends who wants to start a service-based business. And like, it was like 4 hours of me being like, okay, get a Calendly link, like make a form, have a really simple website and
Yeah.
like start making content. That's all you got to do. And whereas with a product-based business, we can work for a while. And like I was sitting down with a new ski helmet company a couple weeks ago and she was just about to launch. And she's like, man, she's like, I just am so happy to like, be like more seasoned in business. And I'm like, well, you're at stage 0. Like you still haven't even started. So you have so much to do still. And so when it comes to cost, of course, it's going to be different if you're manufacturing ski helmets to clothing to, every little thing is going to be very different. I have some clients that their products cost $350 landed in their home. And I have some clients, their products cost $250 like landed in their home. Those are going to be very different upfront costs. I think something that's really important to understand is that many people get very overwhelmed by manufacturing and like working with a manufacturer. And it's actually pretty simple. These people want to work with you. They want your money. So they're willing to be very flexible, especially if they know that this is kind of your first run, that you will work with them for a while if it works out. So they will be flexible with you with their like minimum order quantities. So don't be afraid to ask with some of those things. I think as service-based businesses, at least myself, I'm in product all day long, but I have like 100 product-based businesses I would love to start. Like I have a new product-based business idea every week. I'm like, oh, that would be great. Put it on the list. And a lot of people might be like, okay, eventually they want to, all right, let's add this as kind of like a secondary revenue source for a service-based business, whether it's connected to your service or not. What you need is you need your product and you can make it, but I would recommend manufacturing it. You can hand make it, but I don't recommend it. It's not that I don't love a handmade business. I do love a handmade business, but I don't advocate for it to be the most scalable because you just have to build out your own team and all of that at some point to do your own in-house production. You need a lot more space and it can be really tough. But in the beginning, I would get it manufactured if you can. If you want to hand make it, you can as well.
And question on that actually really quick. Do people care? Like when people market like it's handmade, I'm like,
no, I
my
hate
gut
it.
for me personally, I'm like, listen, I don't care how it was made. I just want to know, like the
And
candle,
frankly,
you know.
handmade is not always a higher quality. These machines are made to make a
True.
higher quality product. And so many people use handmade as their differentiator, as like, this is what makes it different. I hand make all my skincare. And it's like, I don't know if I want your grubby paws in my skincare. Like, I'm a little
Just
skeptical
me in
of
my
that.
kitchen. Just me in my kitchen
Yeah.
making your lotion. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Making your
fair. That's
face
fair.
serums. Yeah.
That's
And
fair.
so I think like a lot of people use handmade as this like, oh, it's handmade, but it doesn't actually have to be a differentiator. And it's not oftentimes. Many of my
Mm.
clients, when they go from handmade to manufactured, they find out it's cheaper. It's much easier on them and their nervous system. And it's actually much higher quality. That's
Mm.
another like myth that people have about getting something manufactured is that it's not very high quality, you know, if it's overseas, but like there's many things we can't manufacture in the States that
Right.
like China is really good at or India is really good at. And so they have just different technology than what you can make handmade. So no, the consumer, average customer doesn't really care. If I'm walking around a farmer's market and someone's like, this was my grandma's peanut brittle recipe, I'm sold. I love it. Great.
I'm
I'll
sold
take your
because of your
fingerprints.
grandma, though. I'm
Yeah.
sold because of your grandma. I'm not sold because of the actual thing
Yes.
itself. Yeah.
So what you really need to start a product-based business is you need a product, obviously. I would try to find a manufacturer for it. You need a brand and you need to create the brand visuals. Like you need to understand, are you going to go kind of groovy? Are you going to go clean and trendy? Are you going to go, you know, vintagey? Whatever
Mm.
is your actual aesthetic that you want. You need to decide on that. But above all else, you need messaging and you need really great messaging. What makes you different than everybody else? Because it's really hard to actually innovate in 2025 going into 2026. There are so many products out there and everybody has a product, but you
Yeah.
can make a product that there are so many out there, whether it's, you know, athletic wear line of leggings and crop tops, or it's soap or skincare, whatever. But how you differentiate is on your branding and on your messaging. And so if you just have those two things, you can become an industry of one in and of yourself. And then you just need to start marketing and building a community. So it's very similar in the service world is like you need a brand, you need to understand which lens you're going through, and you need to start marketing. But like that's really all you need. You know, we are setting up your foundations of your brand. I think it's more important
Yeah.
to look long term in product because you're like, okay, this is the first run of my products. Where do I want it to be? But it's adaptable, right? Like 3 years down the line, you can be like, scrap that idea. I want to do this instead. So you can still learn with it. But you really need a brand identity. You need your messaging, you need your product, and then you need to start building a community around your brand or around the
Mm.
idea.
Okay, brand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was literally just talking like a week or so to a different product-based founder who also will come on the podcast shortly. And when we were talking about brand, we were talking about the fact that it's just shifted so much
Yeah.
in the sense of a bunch of different buckets. Number one, I think that you have to know what brand category you're in
Mm-hmm.
because I think sometimes people are going so polished with their brands. And
Yeah.
then you'll see people on the contrast, the other side of the spectrum, you'll see like someone who just created a product. Maybe they, again, intended to be small. They start just messing around on TikTok, sharing it. Before you know it, Bethany Frankel's using it.
Yeah.
And now they're sold out. And it's like their whole business blew up, even though they weren't necessarily being like, okay, we're going to be a luxury brand. To your point earlier, they somehow by accident or, you know, by just visibility end up with their product in the hands of somebody who has influence and
Yeah.
boom, now you have brand created. So I think for most people, when we think about marketing and brand, there's so much, to your point earlier, of channels you can do, opportunities that you can leverage. We've got like social media marketing, we've
Yeah.
got paid ads, we've got influencer marketing, we've got just like all these different opportunities, I guess I would say. And I think because there's so much marketing and brand that we're all consuming, even to think about someone who's like, okay, I'm going to carve my way into that marketplace, regardless of the product that you have, I feel like can be very intense. So, like, with all those pathways, is there kind of an order of priority in your opinion when it comes to what you prioritize and maybe even like why you might do them in that order?
Yeah, you have to identify with your brand what style of brand do you want to be? Like some people want to be that founder facing like gritty. Before they're even launched, they're starting the content and they're saying, come with me to start the newest, skincare company out there. And they're like really getting with it. Some people, that's just like not the way that they want to build their business. I will never say that adding a founder element into your business is going to weaken your marketing. It will always only strengthen it, but it's not absolutely necessary. There's plenty of brands out there that are growing without it. But how you really have to go about it is you have to understand who could really use your product, what makes it truly different. And if there isn't actually something tangibly different about your product than everybody else in the industry, you have to make something, whether it's a motion, a message, or something, and then your brand visuals. I call this like the MOP method, the magnetic online presence, is you need an ideal customer so you can use other products. So like if you think about even like base luggage, if you look at base luggage's marketing right now, they're doing collaborations with Gap. A lot of times they'll have like road lipstick in the bag. So they'll be like, what's in my bag? And they're taking out the Canon G7X and they're taking out the road lipstick. And they're basically trying to say, the girlies that use base luggage also love these products. And so you can use other people's likeness to kind of put you at that same pedestal. And so if you can identify who your ideal customer is and what other products that they use, look at what actually makes you different than every other product in the industry or whatever they are currently using. And again, if you don't have something tangibly, you have to make it by your messaging and then identify your brand visuals. So like Vacation Sunscreen, if you don't know them, their marketing just looks like it's like a sunscreen company from like the 40s. Like it's very vintage, very old. And like, that's how they separated themselves from the Sunbum and, the copper tone that is not. And like, they literally just differentiated based on vibes. And you can do that, but you have to have those three things work together really seamlessly to really carve away, because I want to look at your industry like on a graph and everybody is kind of over here and you're like, put yourself way over here. You are in those white spaces in the market, as people say, is like, there's a lot of examples of this as somebody that came in and just said, oh, I'm just going to like do something slightly different and like place myself here and say that I'm the luxury inside of this market, or say that I'm, for Gen Z in the market. I think Coach did a really good job with this in the last 2 years. Coach purses, they were kind of falling off. And in the last 2 years, their stock price has 4x'd in 2 years. And it's because they basically said, we're going to be the intro to designer and we're going to only attract Gen Z. We're going to really dive into the Gen Z. They have outlets, which they've had for a while. They have outlet malls. For a luxury store, most of them don't want an outlet mall. Their price point is like $100 to $200. Sometimes it can be $5 or $6, but it's a very accessible price point. They said that they wanted to be your first designer bag. If you go into their stores, it's a very designer, like it feels very luxury. There's like 2 items on the shelf. Like it feels very luxury, where it gives you the feeling that you're buying a Chanel bag, but you're buying a $150 purse. Like it's very different. And so what they did is they said, this is what every other luxury is doing. We're going to be mid-luxury, but with a luxury experience. And we're going to market to Gen Z. And so they differentiated based on ideal customer. And so you can kind of pick, do I want to differentiate on brand? Do I want to differentiate on ideal customer? Or like truly messaging saying my product is better for this demographic.
Well, and I think something that's like complete gold that I want to accentuate that you just hit on is I think the other piece too is that it's also rooted in data of the market.
Yes.
It's not like Coach and the advisors on their marketing and sales and advertising team sitting at a desk and being, okay, great, what do we want to do? It's like they're looking at the fact that you've got a Gen Z who wants a luxury bag in some category. They're willing to spend premium, but they're not fully bought into all of them being a Chanel customer. So like they identified this gap or this way that something had not been done before. They're, okay, great, there's an opening. We're going to fill that. And I think that that's like the center, in my opinion, of good entrepreneurs or good products or services for that matter.
Yeah.
It's to do so in a way that is not so rooted in ego, but more rooted within the actual market itself. And I think that the other company that I think did this so well is Liquid Death. Like they're the one that I mentioned, like just like the mecca of all marketing and brand, because like, let's get down to the basis of the product, right? To your point,
it's water.
It's water, okay? Like, it's water. Like, the fact that Dasani even is allowed to sell their product anymore is a whole other conversation, but, like, they're still around, and yet here's someone who wants to everyone knows, like, cosmetic space, hard to infiltrate,
Yeah.
beverage space, super
Hard.
hard to infiltrate,
Yeah.
and so here's someone who's like, "Oh, we're gonna take, like, the most natural resource on the planet, and we're going to brand this in a way that nobody else has done." And everyone's like, "Oh, is that beer? Is that like, what is that? Is that an
Yeah.
energy
Energy
drink?" Like,
drink. Yeah.
there was so much disruption that they created. But then even with that, it I feel like was again, they saw this opening of like when you think water, you think of like the clear plastic water bottle and the blue label and like
Yeah.
the person who's, drinking it or it's extra filtered. They didn't play into any of that. They were just like, this is the water that you feel like fun and excited kind of thing to
Yeah.
have on your table that you're drinking. And I think all of them, in my opinion, are such a testament to the fact that the founders saw an opening. They didn't necessarily
Yeah.
look at, okay, well, what do I want it to be and what brand do I want it to have like to be? Yes. But it's also, I think, to what you were sharing, these differentiators, there's one which is like what you want to create. But I think the second tier is also what does the market need? And
Yeah.
I think that if you can release this, well, I wanted it to be X, like I want to create this product and actually ask yourself, like, what does the market need? I think most of the products that I know to be wildly successful have won on that factor.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what the name of that company is, but it's a carrier that you snap onto your waist and like your baby can sit on it.
Oh,
It's got like
yeah.
a shelf.
I
Yeah.
forget what it is,
And
but
the lady
Kylie Jenner wore it and it blew up.
Yes. And so it was like the girl went to airports where moms were carrying their kids nonstop. They're like, hey,
Yes.
why don't you try this on? And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. And I remember that business, that brand blew up. And even like, for example, Poppy as
Yeah,
a
they're a
beverage
good one.
company,
Mhm.
they sold for, tens of millions of dollars or billion
I
or
was gonna
something
say, yeah,
along the line.
1.8 billion, I think it was.
Yeah, like insane
Crazy.
amount,
Yeah.
insane amount that they sold it for. And again, that was because they were trying to create a beverage soda that was not made and filled with a bunch of crap. So I
Yeah.
think, it's also looking for the person creating a product as to what the problem it actually solves is if you
Yeah.
weren't thinking about it strictly from your vision and ego.
100%. And you can differentiate based on actual tangible use of like, what is this problem? And I think those are the best businesses because they actually grow a lot more. I don't want to say naturally, but like they really do because people see it, just like that girl in the airport. They were taking videos of it and posting it, and those videos would blow up. And it was basically just showing people, hey, this is the problem. Like you have your hands full and you don't have anywhere to put your toddler. And then like, here was the solution, and they loved it. And you can really see that. So my clients that are like inventing something or, it's expanding in a market somewhere that's like really not out there, absolutely do see rapid growth because it's enough of like a shock factor of like, wow, why did somebody not think of this sooner to really gain some traction? But you definitely can differentiate based on brand. It's just going to be harder, and you still need what makes this different. Like, what are we saying this makes it different for based on this branding?
Well, and I think the question off of that too, which most people even have within services is, do people buy a good service or do they buy good marketing?
Yeah.
And I think in the product space, my gut, without knowing your answer,
Yeah.
my gut says the reason that I might submit that they buy into good marketing is I think there's a lot of people who have fantastic products that don't know how to showcase them in a
For
way
sure.
that the ideal client or the audience cares about.
Yeah.
And then there's people who probably seemingly don't have an incredible product in
Yeah.
the sense of the actual thing that they've produced, but their marketing is so good and so captivating that you're like, okay, who is this company and
Oh
what are
gosh,
they doing?
yeah.
So I'm not sure if you've seen the girl. Clearly, I consume way too much TikTok, but the girl that I saw on TikTok, she was going around to celebrities and she had this like de-bloat supplement.
Mhm.
And maybe at like a coffee shop, she'd see celebrities and she would search for them basically in
Oh,
LA.
the Belly Welly.
Yes.
And
she would
poor,
take her.
they kind of drive
she
me
would
crazy, those videos, because I would be like, what did you just do?
She literally, for anyone who's not familiar, would go and try to locate celebrities like out just living in the wild, having coffee, whatever, and would literally take her supplement that she created and pour it into the top of their drink
While they're drinking
without
it.
consent
Yeah.
while they're drinking it and sitting and having coffee. And the celebrity would look at them and be like, hello, like,
Yeah.
who are you? And, like, it was such a disruptive marketing
It's a shock
approach for, like,
factor.
it's
Yeah.
a shock factor. So because of that, no one is gonna care maybe traditionally about this, like, okay, like another bloat supplement. But now she's got attention. You go, "Okay, like, who the heck is this person? And, like, where is she getting the balls to do this?"
Yeah.
So,
Gosh.
like, I think the marketing is what really allowed her to get seen and to take off. But to you, in your opinion, do you think the success of a product-based business is rooted in marketing? Because I think in service, it can be a lot, and good service gets you referrals,
Yeah.
etcetera. Do you think it's about the product, or you think it's about good brand and marketing?
There are people that have pretty terrible products out there that are making billions in their business
Mm.
or have $1 billion product. I always say that this world, me working in this, has ruined shopping for me because I can look at a sweater and be like, cheap. It's $4. Like, I know that that costs them $4. Or like, I'm looking at skincare. I can look at the ingredients and say, because I work with so many industries, I know so
Mm.
many costs of different things that I can
Yeah.
see that things are actually being made very cheaply. And so it is a lot of branding, especially when you get to a bigger point. At the beginning, your product does need to be good and people need to enjoy it. Like, if your moisturizer is causing rashes, it's not going to work, right? Like, it's not going to work. People aren't going to want to rebuy it. But you can get pretty far just by brands. Like, if we look at products, very often I could buy a cheaper alternative out there, but I will buy the brand because I like what that brand says about me, that I purchased that brand. And that's what we're really seeing, is like the value behind your brand of what is it? It's not that like how this is going to feel when I buy it. It's how is it going to make me feel when I use it? And so
Mm.
when we're really looking at products, brand is so important. Like you said, versus service, your service has to be good. Like, if I wasn't getting my clients results, people would like, yeah, I could market and I could
They'd
get new
find out
clients,
pretty quick.
but people would
Yeah,
find out pretty quick.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's one of those things that if you can't actually do a service, if your service is quote unquote cheap in the experience, people will find out pretty quick. Product, you can fool a lot of people by pretty packaging and good marketing and good branding. There's plenty of top name, household name products out there that they have like a 98% markup on because they're actually being made incredibly cheap.
Mm. Now, okay, on the aspect of brand,
Yeah.
like, I think that, like, there's such a debate around brand because there's branding, which most
Yeah.
people think of, right? You
Hmm.
think in product-based business, you think about the label, you think about, to your point, like, what category do you wanna put it in? But I think a massive piece that I've seen is the impact of brand around community
Yeah.
and around audience, which I know you hit on
Yeah.
a ton. And the fact that just having branding is not that you have you have
No.
a brand.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like, in my opinion, and I know we kinda keep coming back to this, but, like, I think as a service, you can kinda have a little bit of less brand, and your brand will, over time, take shape. I don't
Yeah.
think that you have to have deep, deep, deep community to start. I
Yeah.
think that you kind of, like, ultimately plant seeds and you create that. But I think about all of the brands that people are obsessed with, meaning, like, the products fly off the
Oh,
shelves
yeah.
and the people around them. So when we think about, in your opinion, this just like the difference, or I guess the deciding factor between what is community versus audience?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think as a brand, everyone's like, I just need to get seen. I need to get visibility. I need people to know that I exist. And it's like, that's visibility of your brand, which, yes, in fact, is relevant.
Yeah.
But just because someone sees you on their feed or sees you on TikTok versus they feel like they want to actually be part of your community are two such different factors.
Hmm.
So out of curiosity, like, when someone's wanting to build brand, what do they focus on to build community versus just
Yeah.
audience?
Yeah. This is really important because people constantly just want to go viral. And as long as I can get 30,000 followers, I should be able to do this. But I have clients that will come to me with 100,000 followers that are struggling to make more than, $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And then I have clients that have 2,500 followers that are making, $10,000 to $15,000 a month because they have a community. So at the root of everything that I teach, no matter if you're pre-revenue or if you're making 5, 10, $50 million, I'm going to go back to how strong is your community. Community is what builds retention. It's what builds referrals. It's what builds, word of mouth. It's what builds engagement. It's what builds higher average order value, higher customer lifetime value. We don't want somebody to come in and buy your product once. It's really easy to get somebody to try, so to be intrigued enough to buy something one time. It's actually much harder to get somebody to buy for two times. The second purchase is the hardest purchase to get, because once you get two, it's much easier to get three because they already said that they liked it enough to buy another time. So what my major focus is with a lot of these businesses is how many people are buying a second time, because a lot of times it's very, very low. I've had clients that are making $5 million because they can run ads and make $300,000 a month, but their retention rate is 5%, which is so low. And what you're doing is you have so much acquisition cost that your profit is so low on those purchases because you're just spending so much money to get them and you're not retaining them. It's the difference between making one sale at $59 and one sale at $59 every month now for the next 3 to 5 years. It starts to build. And so when you really focus on building a community, you're focusing on like service to the customer. Like this is where delivery really comes in the product-based world, is you're focusing on service to the customer of like, how do they feel when they purchase? You're focusing on the value that it means to them. And so people, as we see, young millennial, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and moving forward are going to be the primary element of the buying, like of the consumer spending and the consumer market. And so what we look at them, they are more value centered than any other generation that's alive right now. Is like that, that kind of age range. And so what that means is they are kind of like voting with their dollars based on their values, whether it's sustainability or health or wellness or whatever they're saying, or just like trends. And, I like the vibe that they have. It's aspirational to me. I'm voting that is my style. That's what I want. And so you have to share your values. If you look at community, whether you're going to church, you're in your local community, what makes community is shared values. And so it's the same with business, but for some reason we try to complicate it. It's if you can have shared values, shared meaning, shared desires, shared motivations, just like in community with friendships, you can build a community that really, really loves your brand. And then if you can support them as you are the medium to achieve whatever your message is. So like, if you're making diaper bags for men, like that is a very different, your message doesn't have to be like, this is the best diaper bag with the most amount of pockets in it. Like your message can be that this is going to help men be more confident fathers in public. Like, and that this is going to like make you step into this new stage of life. And then in your marketing, instead of being like, this is the best diaper bag ever, and like, that's all that you got. Once you buy it, you're done. You want to talk to them like, okay, what are other ways that you can be more confident as a father? What are other ways that you can do this, that? And like, that's what you're trying to do, is if you're building community, you're building something deeper than without your product, even a part of the conversation. What are you helping them achieve in your marketing and in communication with you? So it's a lot more, how can we make them feel supported, and using our product as the medium to be able to do that. So like, even I'm working with people all the time that everybody has a different message, but we're trying to help their community know what does this product mean for me? What is this representing? So every time that they use it, they feel empowered, they feel confident, they feel, inward, that they want to like sit with this cup of tea and like, go inward a little bit. There's all of these different messages that we can really go back to. And that's what gets people to buy and to rebuy, is because they want to feel that feeling again. And so you have to facilitate that feeling.
I think it's massive because when, even when you think about, to your point of, it's all about retention and it's not about acquisition.
Yeah.
We think about this in service. I think that we always talk in the service space about, monthly recurring revenue, and the fact that it's like, really how can you get someone into contract for, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and try to have this ongoing commitment with somebody. And I think about, for, let's just say, a candle. If I'm selling a candle, does someone buy one candle from me, or do they buy a candle every season because they're curious about what our new scents are that we're going to be releasing? And I have this company that I always buy their candles, Sand and Fog. They're like just like the go-to.
Yeah, they're great.
I always buy. And every single season for years now, it's like, okay, great. We go to the Home Sense kind of equivalent or the Home Goods and go and get their scent of the season. But it's like that's ongoing purchasing from that company happening nonstop.
Yeah.
And I think that the piece of that is like, to your point, one customer at $59 versus one customer for the next 3 years at $59. When you add that up times 2,000 customers, 3,000 customers,
Yeah.
right? Like there's such an aspect here of volume that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really what I'm getting from it is like, if you don't have a good product, you're not going to have people coming back time and time again naturally, because
For
as
sure.
to your point, if it causes a rash, I'm probably not going to put it on my skin again.
Yeah. But
So
it
there is
doesn't
that.
need to be, top of the line. Like it doesn't need, you don't need
Right.
to be using gold in your like to get
Yeah.
people to be able to buy back again. Your product needs
Yeah.
to be good and actually work and like do the thing, but your branding on top of it is what's going to make the perceived value of that product much higher.
And know what you're actually selling.
Yeah.
Like to your point of the daddy diaper bag, like when you think about this diaper bag has this many compartments, the dad who's buying it, like obviously he wants to make sure that it has physically enough compartments
Yeah.
for him to use. But to your point, the thing that he's actually concerned about is like, how do I carry this with me all day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday through Friday, and not feel like I have my wife's purse that I'm bringing with me,
Yeah.
right? Because all of them have been marketed that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, on this piece, the curiosity that I know, for my clients and maybe even for the person listening, if they have a service-based business, they think to themselves, okay, well, like, should I be adding products? Like, should I have a product-based business?
Yeah.
Or maybe they have a confidence from their current service-based, like, I could do a product-based business. But I've also, and this is just my personal opinion,
Mhm.
I've seen service-based business owners who are like, I'm going to become a product-based business owner. And it just like,
It's different.
it doesn't land
Yeah.
because I think they're not taking in consideration these factors you've mentioned. Like, it's just kind of like, I have the inspiration that I could physically make X, so I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
And because I have this person who trusts me over here, they're going to trust this new product as a result. So if someone's thinking about, as a current service-based business right now, thinking about creating a product,
Yeah.
is there any, I guess, advice or like forewarning that you would say about like what would allow that to be successful? Because I've seen some people do it very well.
Yeah.
And I've also seen others where it did not hit the mark.
Yeah. When it comes to adding product onto a service-based business, a couple of things that are really lovely is that you already have a community. You already have people that love you. You already have people that trust you because they invest in you. Something you have to realize is it's a lot harder to make $10,000 when you're selling a $39 product than when you're selling a $5,000 coaching program. And so it's a longer play to make big cash. It can happen, especially if you have a community, because the volume, again, going back to that, can be there. But understanding that a product-based business is as complicated as you really want it to be. Like if you want to outsource it, it's something called a 3PL, which is basically like a fulfillment center. Like you can send your product to a fulfillment center, somebody makes a purchase and it goes through the fulfillment center and it makes it to their house. Or you can have an in-house team that is like shipping products, or you can be shipping products at midnight if you want to be doing that in the beginning. What I would say to somebody that wants to have it is is this a long-term play, or is this just something that you're like kind of enjoying? Like I've always said, I could make like journals or like planners for business owners so easily. Granted, there's a ton of them out there now, but I could make them very easily because everybody, like this is one of the things in my head that I'm like, oh, I could totally do this. But with the community that I have, that's complementary to my current community. It's something that I know can be made without me. Like I'm not hand binding these things. Like they're going to be made and sent to my house. So I could ship them out, or I could get a fulfillment center. But is it something that I want to sell for like a season, or is it something that I want to sell for a while? And that answer depends on how much resources you want to put into it. Like if this is something you're like, no, I'm really going to expand this, I would start a new profile. I would come up with a brand name around it, because that other brand name is going to be much more scalable to your business than like your personal brand. And then your personal brand can funnel into the product brand. We see this a lot. There's a lot of people that have done this, and some people do product first and then become a consultant, or they're a consultant and then they go into product. The other nice thing about product is it can be very outsourced. Like at a certain point, you aren't doing hardly anything other than like a check-in every once in a while to make sure that your product is, you might develop new products, but if you don't launch new things, you kind of just have your like signature line. It's what's going. You just have to launch it every now and then, and you'll bring you'll bring sales in. I think the biggest thing to realize again is that it's going to take time to make 6-figure months in a product-based world. The amount of $30 planners you have to sell, you need a lot of visibility there. Versus in the service-based world, it can feel a little easier when you're selling something for a higher ticket. But it is a really great way to build another income stream that is infinitely scalable as long as it's built that way. Like at a certain point, there's a reason that a lot of these product-based business owners don't seem like they're doing much, is because you can outsource production, fulfillment, marketing, customer service. And then all you have to do is kind of like keep being the face of the brand. And that's all that is like kind of fueling it. So it is a really great income stream. Plus, it's great. It's a lot easier to sell someday than a personal brand. It's something that you're actually using your personal brand to almost build equity in, that you can sell it. You can get orders to get into Anthropologie, and then you're getting a $5,000 unit order. And so there are pieces that you can scale. It just takes a little bit longer in order to get there, but it's infinitely scalable to a product-based business, or to a service-based. I mean, sure, you hear of service-based businesses maybe being evaluated at $1 billion, but that's like the Grant Cardones and the Tony Robbins of the world. It's a lot hard. Like a Poppy was $2 billion evaluated at, which started in 2020. So that's in 5 years. She sold for $2 billion. That's a lot harder to do in service. So you can scale it more infinitely because you can get into wholesale, and then you can get into direct to consumer, and then you can get into all of these other little buckets that your income can start to stack really quickly. It's just really getting you to the point that you have the brand authority and the community that can get you there.
Well, and I think the other thing too is service-based, that I don't think, like, there's the aspect of, if you're a service-based business, adding a product, you can add a product as a way or an avenue to have the focus of revenue. So like, for example, people who have, like you're saying, the planners, the merch lines. Like if you think about even like an example might be like a Call Her Daddy. Before her beverage line, she had her podcast, and then she added her merch line of Unwell merch that people could buy. So like, truthfully, she's not making billions of dollars off of these
like sweatshirts.
Like that she's selling. But I think that the other thing that some service-based businesses don't maybe consider as an opportunity, even if you're like, well, I don't see myself being a product-based founder, is also to look at, is adding a line of products to your business potentially complementary to send traffic to the service itself? So like, for example, if someone has, like, I literally, full transparency, I'm pretty sure I have a Call Her Daddy, not Unwell, but it's like call me daddy or call whatever upstairs with like her OG stuff. And I remember someone had like gifted it to me years ago. And anyway, if I'm out in life and I'm at the coffee shop and I'm in my marketing sweat on a Sunday, the first question is, oh my God, I love your sweater. That's so funny. Where did you get that? And now you've started a conversation about somebody's brand. So I think that the other thing to also think about is, when you sell or have, even just as a service-based business, a product available, I also think it's an extension of the brand, even if you're not looking for the product itself to become a separate brand. And so I think that there's kind of also, like, kind of back to your earlier point of like the tiers of vision. There's also tiers of where it could go, in the sense of what it could do for you, like as a business in general. Well,
I think there's a good and a bad way. We see this with influencer or celebrity brands all the time. So like, yes, there's like the bar, or like the Jerf Avenue. There's a lot of these people that are making pajama lines for who knows what reason, but everybody has a pajama line these days. But
are we all buying that many pajamas? Total side note.
Who wears pajamas? Let's talk about that.
Literally, I wear the same like men's Walmart t-shirt.
I wear my husband's shirt that has like a...
like I was like, are we buying matching sets? And I didn't know this?
I know. If I go somewhere, maybe I'll bring my 1 or 2 PJ sets, but...
if other people see me.
I know, truly. So there are good and bad ways to do it. We see this a lot. Like if you look at Rhode is an incredible case study. Granted, we don't all have Justin Bieber to like really push us out there and to make sure, not that she wasn't anybody before, but he really brought her like the fame that she has, like at least to the level that she has. But she grew that business intentionally. That girl is not dumb, or she had some really good advisors helping her do this. It was very connected with her personal brand. she was her major influencer. And so their marketing, if you look at because now their business, all their P&Ls are public because they just got purchased by a public company. They had less than 11% of their expenses going to marketing, which is huge because she wasn't getting paid anything because she was the founder and she was the primary. And even though they send PR to everybody, that was their major form of marketing, was her. Where you see it wrong, and go back to Alex Cooper, I think her Unwell beverage was very misaligned with her brand to this day where it's at. It was great for her when she was in college, but the reason that feels like it's already fizzled out, she doesn't talk about it, she doesn't promote it, like it's just not something. It might be on her podcast still, but I bet it'll fizzle in the next 3 to 5 years. It'll be gone. And she launched an ad agency like in the last couple of months. It's because that's aligned with who her brand is now. The beverage company wasn't. And so same thing with a service-based business. We can look at these influencers as kind of like extreme examples when they have millions of followers. Is there a market for another pajama company out there? B, is this aligned with the current brand that you have? So a lot of times you'll see these people build up these brands and then it's like a merch line. And does the world really need another merch line of your merch? Yes, you can sell some of that, but that's a very different strategy than if an influencer is starting a skincare line or something else that is going to be an extension of their brand. That's one of the most important pieces. It would be incredibly random for me to start a product-based business with the community that I already have that doesn't have anything to do with being a business owner. I could do it, but I'd be starting from ground zero. And so it would be the same thing for anybody else. Is like, if you want to use your personal brand, you can be kind of the evidence of how that brand lives every day through your personal brand, but it should be an extension of your personal brand in order for it to play off of each other properly.
Well, like I could see the pajamas, for example. Like if you were an influencer who's like, okay, like a sleep coach, or you're like somebody who's like, this is all I talk about. I talk about nighttime routines. Or like, even if you're an influencer and you're like, the only thing you ever film is your nighttime routine, and that's what you've been known to be famous for, then yeah, sure. Like go and create a pajama line being like, every night that I now film this, I'm going to be wearing my pajama sets kind of thing in my nighttime routine. Like I feel like there's a correlation. And I think the other piece that I also think is important is that the fact that in the personal brand, you have to have such deep personal brand to like make, for example, merch that basically is a billboard of you. Like no one wants to wear like the Madi show, the Kate Perkovic show on their clothing. Like no one cares to do that. As to get back to your aspect of brand and mission, what is the brand or mission behind it? And does someone want to rep that brand and mission? So I think that the beverages didn't really do well. I agree. I kind of saw that like fizzle, to your wording. But I think that the merch, the only reason that does well, in my opinion, is the Unwell identity is actually something that people resonate with, even if they're not wanting to rep like the Call Her Daddy. I think I've worn that sweater maybe twice because again,
you're like, what are you gonna wear in public?
When am I gonna wear that? Like to like go like, pick up breakfast? Like it's weird. So, but then on the contrast, like there was a, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but there's a fitness influencer and he created Sebum. He created his line of sweatshirts, and like he's a huge brand, obviously. Yeah. But one of the sweaters that I have that like an ex I stole from, full transparency, I stole from my exes. It says like it's always pursue pressure, and it basically was talking about the fact that like again, this is one of his mottos around his fitness journey. But at the end of the day, his name is nowhere to be found on it. But when I wear it, everyone's, oh my God, I love that sweater. Where did you find that? So I think it's, again, making sure that in the creation of any kind of product that you understand why you're making it and what its goal is. And the other thing I definitely wanted to ask, whether it connected to a service-based business or not, is also volume of products. Mm-hmm. Because while I don't ever see myself creating a product-based business, if I did, there's no chance I'm making like 9 products. Okay. Like I would be like, okay, I want to be the Coca-Cola. I want to have the signature product and I would want to scale that as far as I possibly could. And I know that even just a recent conversation, we're talking about the fact that people are nonstop, like new product all the time. And I think probably for most people who think about creating a product-based business, they think to themselves, well, how many freaking products would I have to create? I have to market those. I have to fulfill, delivery on those and shipment on those and all of it. So is it possible, or is it actually maybe potentially recommended to go into a product-based business looking to have one product, or do you think someone should kind of go in and aim to have a product line?
I always say if I were to create a product-based business, I would find an industry with a gap in the market and I would make one product and market the absolute heck out of it and then expand if it came to be. I would have a hero product and nothing else. There's so many case studies of businesses like this. Scrub Daddy, great one of the most successful Shark Tank businesses ever. They had two products. They had the soft and the hard Scrub Daddy, the two sponges. And they have an incredible story, but they basically grew the Scrub Daddies and for two products, like this is the hard one for the hard, stuff on the pans. This is the soft one for, your everyday whatever. And they scaled those two, but it was just the Scrub Daddy hard and soft. It was all that they had. And then now if you go to the store, Scrub Daddy basically has a aisle of the Scrub Mommy and the Scrub Baby and the Scrub Toilet and like all of these other things. But it wasn't until Scrub Daddy became a household name that everybody was like, I want a sponge. And they think of Scrub Daddy that they did that. Why that is because you can create a brand, a community, and a status around working, like around buying this product with one product really easily. But when you start launching, gosh, I have people all the time, they launch a new product every month. And it's like, yeah, but your audience never latches onto anything as their favorite because they're constantly rotating through. You never get to actually sell the inventory that you have, especially in the beginning. You're trying to, like, transparently, what a lot of these brands do, why they do this is because they want to be able to buy 10,000 of these at really high margins. And that's why they only have one product because they spent all their money on those 10,000. But what they're able to do is market it really incredibly. What is the problem? They set the scene of the brand. They talk about what that product is actually going to do for them. And then you can expand. Another example is hero patches, the like pimple patches. They started with one product. It was one hydrocolloid like patch that they put on their face. And again, they have a whole aisle now. Like everybody started wearing pimple patches. They started popping up in other brands. Now they have the invisible that you can wear under your makeup. They have the ones with the little like pokey in them to like do all of these other solutions. But the first solution did the job. It did it enough and got really big and they grew it. And they did all of they gained the market share, they gained the awareness of it. And now they have all of this variety. They have the nose patches, the forehead, the everything. Because when you add products like that, you're adding such a complexity to your website, to your marketing, to your sales process, to your inventory, to your production, that if you're constantly adding new products, you are actually doing your customers a disservice because 85% of people would say that they have decision fatigue. I know I do. And so if I'm trying to figure out on your website which one of these is for me, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to get overwhelmed and be like, I'll figure it out later. Same thing with whoever product they're trying to sell is if you have one product, it's really easy to be like, all right, I've heard people talk about this. I'm done. Great. And so it's much easier with one product to scale it. You build the foundation of the brand, what the brand stands for, why this one product is so good. And then you can expand to complementary products.
Well, and also you're leveraging the proof of the original product. Like if I don't like Coke, I'm probably not going to like Diet Coke. Yeah. I'm probably not going to like Coke Zero. And I'm probably not going to like Lime Coke or Cherry Coke or whatever, right? So like there is a natural leverage as well of like get the buy-in on the first product, back to your point of like pimple patches.
Yeah.
Get your buy-in on the first product so that someone's like, oh, this is great. I'm interested in buying multiple.
Yeah.
Or like I'm even thinking about nail polish. Nail polish is like such a classic industry for that because it's like if your nail polish as the product is not good, doesn't last, it chips, it doesn't, whatever it might be, apply well, you're not going to buy 18 colors of the same one. The reason OPI like dominates the market is because their quality is used now in all nail salons. Like it's literally everywhere, but they had initially a very small product line to start. And now they're obviously like seasonal and all of these things, and endless products. But again, I think it all comes off the fact that you can rely on the original product, which is what then transferred trust to the other things that they created.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask to kind of put a bow on today.
Yeah.
Someone's thinking about either growing their current product or they're thinking about starting a product-based business. And I know from just like our coffee chats, fire chats, all of the things, have seen just all of the shit that's gone down when it comes to a product-based business. If you were going to like give your insider wisdom to somebody of do not do X,
Yeah.
or this is what you're going to do, like what you would recommend to kind of, I guess, set the stage for the highest likeliness of success.
Yeah.
Where should someone start? Or maybe where should they not start
Yeah.
as like their next step?
Yeah. I have a long list of do nots. And I think do not price your product just because everybody else is pricing it at a certain point. Price it according to actual profit, because at the end of the day, it's really easy to try to be like, I want to be the most affordable option so people buy it, but people aren't buying affordable, they're buying brand. Do not discount the brand side of your business, because that's going to be a really big piece that people are really going to connect to. Do not discount the values that your brand has. Many people say, oh, well, nobody cares. Like I'm making my business sustainable out of personal responsibility. My customer doesn't care. They do care. And the ones that don't, that's fine. But for some people, it's a check. Like it's a qualifier on their list. Do not overthink the idea of like your ideal customer and all of these pieces. You really can grow and adapt as you keep on going. What I want you to think about is, how can we make a product that's good? How can we make a product that like achieves the goal that we're saying it achieves? Doesn't have to be the best on the market, but how can we achieve that? How can we find something that is different than everybody out there? It's another do not. Do not just look at a brand that's aspirational in your industry selling the same thing and say, let's just do that. I have clients all the time come to me and they say, I love this brand. And then I go and I look and their websites are like the exact same as that other brand. Not going to help you, because you have just put yourself at that same point and that brand already has authority and trust. And so everybody is going to pick them over you if you are equal to what that brand is saying that they're doing. So if you are trying to create a product, don't get overwhelmed with it. It's actually, once you get into the world, I actually think it's easier. I might just be blind to it at this point because it's been a while, but I do think it's easier than people expect. Find a manufacturer that can make your product that you like the quality. Don't be afraid to ask for samples from like 5-10 different manufacturers to compare. Identify what you want your visuals to be and have fun with it. Like get dreamy with it. A lot of people, you can get very far with really great visuals. Like go do a photo shoot, a video shoot, whatever that looks like. And then talk about your values. Like, why did you create it this way? Talk about the founder story. Like people do care about you. You can't be the like North Star of your brand, but you can be a really big part of it. So the reason like Jake from State Farm and Flo from Progressive exist is because insurance is really hard to connect to. So they put a person behind it for us to connect to. Same thing. Like it's really hard to connect to lip gloss if there's not a person behind it. That's why everybody loves Hailey Bieber, or I guess like Rhode, is because she was the person behind that brand. And then just start creating community. I always say that if I had a product, I would have one. If I started a product-based business, it would be one product with a very niche community with some fun branding. And I would start building the community as soon as I decided to press go on the idea of the product. I would start
Before you sell the
before
product.
I even had it in production. I would start ASAP, start building that community. You can get a lot of buy-in early on. And like, I would just start creating value. Like I had a product a while ago that I wanted to start that was kind of in the, when I was building, I lived in a bus for a few years and I built out my bus. And in the era of me building my bus, I found like this product that I was like, oh, this would be great. But it was in like the DIY kind of like crafter or whatever world. I'm like, wow, this is a great thing. And there's nothing out there like this. It was one product, but I would have started immediately creating community around DIY crafting, things like that. And then I would have started the product based, like, okay, I'm starting this business. Because the sooner you can build community, the sooner you will be able to make that high cash months.
It's so interesting, the correlation between service-based business too, because I think even
There's a lot. Yeah.
there's so many there's so many correlations. Obviously there's definitely distinctions, but I think distinctions mainly are around the actual product or the service, but the marketing I so agree with, the brand I agree with,
Yeah.
the community I agree with, because I think even in service, obviously, as you know, because you have a service side to your knowledge as well, is like I think so many people come in and they want to start an online business, or they want to start a business in general that is a service-based business, and they think, like, I got to convert somebody today. And I'm like, you haven't even earned the right to sell anything.
Yeah.
Like no one has any idea who you are or what you haven't added any value to your point. You haven't created any community. You haven't actually created any connection point at all. And you're like, hey, give me your money.
Yeah.
So I think while, yes, it may be a different flavor in the service bucket, I think that the principle is the same, which is the fact that, the things that I heard you say kind of like the same through line today is like marketing is the difference maker. Like if you can't stand out in marketing, like you're not going to stand out as a service, frankly, but or as a product.
Yeah.
Brand, like know what makes you different. Know where you can be, to your point earlier, a category of one. Like everyone's here, I'm going over here.
Yeah.
And looking to say, okay, not just like what would feel good for me, but what is the opening that I can truly fill within this market.
Yeah.
And I think with that as well, to your point, like there still is, just as there is in service, there's value in having a great product and there's value in having a great service.
Mhm.
I think the thing, which I know like obviously we chat about scaling and stuff all the time, you and I, but I think the thing that I take from today is like the principles are actually very straightforward
Yeah.
in the sense of it doesn't have to be complicated. But what I'm seeing is like it's about these core elements of really marketing, brand, and a great product. And then obviously there's logistical pieces, as there is in any business, that you have to navigate. But to your point earlier of like once it's all up and set, that's why you'll see product-based founders kind of sit back and chilling.
Yeah.
I think it's actually the same, truthfully, in an aspect with the service-based businesses, because service-based business owners, the real strain typically comes from the product, meaning
Yeah.
like them, the service, not from the marketing, not from the brand, not from the sales. Like all that eventually, even with scaling that, becomes very streamlined. Then it
Mhm.
becomes, to your point earlier, how do we create more capacity? Which for, the product is how do we create more products faster, more efficiently, to more countries, to more people. Like it's all still about the delivery, but the rest of it eventually becomes streamlined. And so I think it's exciting because I could definitely see if someone's in a product-based business, how those principles could translate to either other products,
Yeah.
or if you're a service-based business, how if you learn the principles of brand and marketing and sales and all of that, how even like you do, your knowledge can transfer to, you could literally create technically, like let's be honest, literally anything at this point, because
Yeah.
you know how to do the product and you know how to do the service side too.
Yeah.
So I guess for someone listening, obviously, I know you literally live and breathe in this space. I
Mhm.
will tell you guys straight up, if you are a product-based business, number one, or number two, you're thinking about starting a product-based business, there's not a single other person that I would recommend for you to reach out to. Number one, if you listen to her podcast, which is the Small Business Growth Podcast.
Yes.
Nailed it. Small Business Growth Podcast. I should also mention Madi is an OG podcaster. Her podcast has like a bajillion episodes that are all packed with value. And like, I'm not talking value as in like her just kind of talking around things. Like I'm talking, if you actually took notes, you probably would have a blueprint on how to grow and scale a business if you listened. So incredible podcast, is definitely the person I'd recommend for anyone looking to start a product-based or who wants to grow a product-based. Madi, if someone wants to, pick your brain, get into your world, whether they're thinking Etsy and kind of, mom and pop shop size, or they're like, I want to be an Anthropologie, as you said, and
Yeah.
like take over the world with my product. Where do they reach out? Where should they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at This Is Madison Page. You can go there, or you can go to thisismadisonpage.com and you can apply and just reach out to me anywhere. We can just book a call and we'll sit down and chat about it. I just want to hear what your idea is, your vision is, and kind of look at what you really want to do. And I can see what that insight might look like of what that process is to bring it into fruition. Yeah, I would love to chat with you. Come over to my Instagram or my podcast, which is the Small Business Growth Podcast. And yeah, I have like 400 episodes and you can get a good idea of my style over there. But yeah, I hang out on Instagram mostly at This Is Madison Page.
Amazing. Well, Madi, thank you for coming on and sharing all of us. I feel like I got a masterclass in product-based business. So thank you for all the insights today. And with that being said, you guys, we will see you on the next episode. And as always, stay ambitious.